Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years, and this means that vast resources are dedicated to developing new and more effective weapons. With modern technology, military researchers have been able to design incredible devices of war. Join me for today's video as we take a look through 15 of the most powerful super weapons in the world. Number 15. Moab, the GBU-43. The GBU-43B Massive Ordnance Air Blast, which is more commonly known as the mother of all bombs, or Moab, is a large-yield bomb that was developed by the Air Force Research Laboratory for use by the U.S. military. It is one of the most powerful non-nuclear weapons ever created, and measuring 30 feet long and over 40 inches in diameter, the almost 15-ton device is designed to be dropped by a C-130 Hercules aircraft. To date, the Moab has only been used in a war setting once, when one was dropped on an ISIS cave complex in the Nangarhar province of Afghanistan. When it detonated, it released a blast the equivalent to 11 tons of TNT, and not only did it obliterate the cave system it was targeting, but it generated a shockwave that traveled more than a mile in every direction. Use of weapons like this are, despite their effectiveness, usually avoided because of the potential for innocent casualties, and it's lucky in this instance that these were kept to an absolute minimum, and the only confirmed deaths during the strike were that of ISIS fighters. The shockwave was blamed, though, for breaking thousands of windows in the surrounding region, and strict limitations have been put in place to ensure that they'll only ever be used as a last resort. Number 14. SAR Bomb. Nuclear detonations are so powerful that they can be detected by seismometers on the other side of the world, and in modern times can be seen by satellites from space. But during the 1950s and 60s, the Soviet Union kept the full details of their tests under wraps. There still isn't any publicly available footage of the vast majority of them. There is one exception to this, though, which was a test that was conducted on October 30th, 1961. Known as SAR Bomb or AN-602, it was a hydrogen aerial bomb that remains the largest and most powerful nuclear weapon to have ever been detonated by any nation on the planet. Released at altitude from a Tu-95V aircraft above Severny Island in the Novaya Zemlya archipelago, it floated down by parachute and automatically triggered at a height of 13,000 feet. The device itself was 26 feet long and 7 feet in diameter and was a three-stage design. The first stage was a fission trigger, which followed the detonation of two smaller thermonuclear charges, which themselves were used to implode the main thermonuclear module that was positioned between them. Amazingly, the yield of the SAR bomb was between 50 and 52 megatons, and had it been fully filled with material, it's believed the design could easily achieve an explosive force in excess of 100 megatons. Number 13. F-35 Lightning II. Developed by Lockheed Martin alongside Northrop Grumman and BAE Systems for the U.S. Marine Corps, Air Force, and Navy, the F-35 Lightning II is the latest designed single-seater, single-engine stealth multi-role combat aircraft. With the first entering active service in 2015, more than 760 have so far been built, and the plan is for almost 2,500 to have been completed by 2044, making it the backbone of crewed tactical air power for the services, and those of allied powers through to at least 2070. The F-35 measures 51 feet long and has a wingspan of about 35 feet. It's powered by a Pratt & Whitney afterburning turbofan engine, which allows it to reach a maximum speed of 1.6 times the speed of sound, with an operating range of up to about 1,700 miles. As you'd expect, it's fitted with the latest technology such as an EO targeting system, a distributed aperture missile warning system, a CNI communication suite, and a Barracuda electronic warfare system. It can be configured based on the mission with a range of missiles, bombs, and guns, and different variants are available too, including a conventional takeoff and landing variant, a short takeoff and landing version, and one designed for catapulted takeoff from an aircraft carrier, with a number of others currently in the works for introduction in the coming decades. Number 12. The Agni Missile. Agni missiles are a series of medium to intercontinental missiles that have been designed and developed in India, and as they're nuclear capable, are the country's most effective way of delivering high-powered strikes against targets. There are currently 7 versions of the missiles in the program, of which 5 are operational and already in service, and each one offers differing payload capacities and ranges. The Agni One, for example, first entered service in 2004, and it's a single-stage missile with an operational range of up to 745 miles and a warhead weight of as much as 5,500 pounds. The longer-range Agni 6, on the other hand, is a 4-stage intercontinental ballistic missile that's still in the testing phase, and once ready will have a range of up to 7,500 miles, and the ability to carry as many as 10 4-ton warheads that, when deployed, will each be able to lock on to independent targets. As one of the 8 nations to have access to a nuclear arsenal, India was already a major military power, and with the Agni program, now have weapons as effective as those of any other country. Number 11. B53 Nuclear Bomb. Developed by the United States during the Cold War, the B53 nuclear bomb built upon previous designs and is one of the most powerful weapons to have ever been in the country's arsenal. Around 340 of these bombs are believed to have been built, each of which measured 12 feet long and over 4 feet in diameter. Containing enriched uranium and lithium-6 deuteride, the first versions of these weapons had a yield of about 9 megatons, and after being dropped from a plane either used 5 parachutes to control their descent so they could be detonated at altitude, or could be delivered by a freefall for a ground-level strike. The idea was that the B-53 would be a bunker buster weapon that would create such a large blast at the surface that the shock waves would travel through the earth and collapse a subterranean target, something that would have been particularly effective against Soviet nuclear bunkers. With the aim towards disarmament, though, the B-53s were deemed to be simply too powerful and risked significant collateral damage, with the blast expected to obliterate all buildings and life within a 9-mile radius. So the majority of them were decommissioned in the 1980s, and the final 50 were taken out of service by 1997. Number 10. Boeing Yao One. Boeing is one of the most successful commercial aircraft manufacturers in the world, but the company is also heavily involved in creating designs for NASA and the US military, and has developed countless prototype devices over the years. One of the most potentially powerful of these, though, is called the Yao One, which first flew in 2002 and was part of an experimental project that ran until 2014. The company modified a military 747-400 and installed a megawatt-class chemical oxygen iodine laser on the front of it. Known as COIL, the hope was that the device could be used to intercept and incapacitate tactical ballistic missiles when they're in their boost phase. Along with the COIL system, there were also 2 other target illuminator lasers, and the first successful test of this setup was performed in June of 2007. Further development continued, and in 2010 the high-energy laser was used to take out a simulated missile launch. The problem with the design, though, was that the laser had to be flown quite close to a missile to be effective, and was generally seen as being 30 or 40 times less powerful than it would need to be in operational use. During the meeting where funding was cut from the project, the Secretary of Defense stated that in its current form, it would have to be flying within the borders of Iran when a missile is launched to have any chance of being able to intercept it. Still, development continues, and there's a good likelihood that these may become a crucial part of missile defense in the future. Number 9. Reaper drones. Modern warfare has seen a move away from putting so many lives in harm's way, and one of the most effective ways of maintaining aerial strength has been the use of drones. Far from being like the consumer models that you can buy, the most powerful that are currently in use are the MQ-9 Reapers, which first entered service in 2007. Designed by General Atomics and used by the US military as well as by the UK, Italy, France, and others, Reapers are 36 feet long and have a wingspan measuring 65 feet. They're powered by a Honeywell turboprop engine and have a maximum speed of 300 miles an hour over a range of 1,200 miles. Each Reaper has 7 hardpoints that can be used to carry a variety of weapons, such as laser-guided Hellfire missiles, and they're operated by 2 remote pilots and a ground station that can be on the opposite side of the planet to where they've been deployed. In many situations, Reaper drones are now used instead of manned F-16 fighter aircraft, as well as being used by militaries. Unarmed versions are also used by Border Patrol as a first response to unidentified ships, and by NASA for flight testing. Number 8. Castle Bravo. Castle Bravo was the first test of the Operation Castle program at Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands, and was the most powerful nuclear device to ever be detonated by the United States. Housed within an almost 11-ton cylinder, the primary part of the thermonuclear device was a deuterium-tritium gas-boosted atomic bomb, and the force of this was channeled through the secondary part that was made up of lithium-6 deuteride. It was designed in a way that would be impractical as a deployable bomb, and the expectation was that it would generate an explosive force equivalent to 6 megatons of TNT, but it turned out to be much more powerful. It was detonated on March 1, 1954, but due to an unexpected series of additional reactions of the lithium, the actual yield was 15 megatons, which at the time was the biggest human-made explosion of all time. The fireball was visible from more than 250 miles away, and in less than 10 minutes the cloud had risen to an altitude of 130,000 feet and measured 62 miles in diameter. Because it was so much more powerful than expected, the fallout contaminated 7,000 square miles, along with a number of nearby islands, and traces were detected all over the world, as far away as Australia, Europe, and the United States. It was because of Castle Bravo that agreements had to be made between nuclear countries as to where they could carry out future tests, because of the increasing risk of unintended events as even more powerful designs were created. Number 7. AH64 Apache gunship. Designed and developed by Boeing, the AH64 Apache gunship was first introduced in 1986 and has become one of the most influential vehicles on the battlefield. It's classed as a twin-turboshaft attack helicopter and has been the primary chopper of its type in campaigns in Panama, Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Measuring 58 feet long and powered by two General Electric T700 engines that drive the 48-foot wide main rotor, the AH-64 is able to reach speeds of up to 182 miles per hour over a range of up to 300 miles. It's operated by a two-person crew. It's fitted with a 30mm M230 chain gun with 1,200 rounds, as well as 4 hardpoints that can carry a combination of rockets or missiles, which are usually either Hellfire air-to-ground missiles or air-to-air Stingers. Since their introduction, more than 2,400 of them have been built, and they're used not only by the U.S. forces, but by those of 7 other countries that include the UK, the Netherlands, Israel, and Egypt. Number 6. Aviation Thermobaric Bomb of increased power. Despite having the largest but aging nuclear arsenal on the planet, Russia continues to develop devastating weapons, and possibly the most frightening non-nuclear design is the Aviation Thermobaric Bomb of increased power. It's a device that was first tested by the country in 2007, and while it's been used by Russia in military campaigns, it's not believed to have been deployed to its full potential yet. Containing a mixture of high explosives, fine aluminum powder, and ethylene oxide, each of these weapons has a yield of around 44 tons of TNT, which produces a shockwave that's similar to that of a small tactical nuclear weapon. They can therefore be used in the same way and are detonated mid-air, and rely on pressure wave and fiercely high temperatures to inflict damage. Because of the way the bomb works, their blast waves are longer and more sustained than other conventional explosive weapons, which means they're far more destructive than another bomb with the same yield. Number 5. Trident missiles. Developed by Lockheed Missiles and Space Corporation, Trident missiles are the delivery mechanism for thermonuclear warheads that are launched from ballistic missile submarines, and the ones that are currently used by the U.S. Ohio-class subs, as well as the UK Vanguard-class subs. They've been specifically designed so the submarines don't have to surface to launch, and instead release the missiles from their tubes in a way that breaches the surface before the first stage motor ignites, and an aerospike deploys to reduce the aerodynamic drag. The first iteration of the design entered operation in 1979, and currently it's the second version that are in use after undergoing a series of redesigns in 2002 to prolong their lives until at least 2040. The US and UK use their own nuclear warheads on the missiles, and they form a crucial part of the nuclear deterrent for both countries. At an estimated cost of $70 million each, they're highly reliable, and within 2 minutes of a launch can travel at speeds in excess of 13,000 miles an hour. It takes very little time for them to leave the Earth's atmosphere, and by taking on a suborbital trajectory, are able to target virtually anywhere on the planet. Number 4. P270 Musket. First entering service in 1984, the P270 Musket is a Soviet-designed ramjet cruise missile that's specifically designed for ship-to-ship warfare. It's capable of carrying traditional or nuclear warheads. Each one is just under 32 feet long and has a diameter of 31 inches. They're powered by 4 ramjet engines that allow them to travel at up to 3 times the speed of sound and with a range of up to 155 miles at an altitude of 66 feet above sea level. They're seen as the main defense against a NATO amphibious assault against Russia. As this is a highly specialized type of missile, very few nations have developed ones of their own, so the P270 has also been sold to other nations, with China and Egypt being the biggest customers. The non-nuclear version carries a 330-pound warhead, and this would be enough to punch a huge hole into any vessel it strikes, and it would almost certainly either incapacitate or sink it. With the short range and speed it travels, there are very few ways to defend against them, making them one of the most dangerous naval weapons of all. Number 3. Gerald R. Ford Class Aircraft Carrier. At a cost of around $13 billion each, Gerald R. Ford Class aircraft carriers are the largest and most powerful naval ships of all, and are virtually floating cities that are self-sufficient and able to stay at sea almost indefinitely. They're 1,092 feet long, 252 feet across at the flight deck, and have a displacement of 100,000 tons. They have 25 decks with a capacity for around 4,500 crew members, and the flight decks and bays are able to carry more than 75 aircraft. Each of the carriers is powered by 2 Bechtel nuclear reactors, which have a 50-year lifespan, and with 4 propeller shafts they're able to travel at speeds in excess of 35 miles an hour. They're also equipped with 4 surface-to-air missile launchers, 3 Phalanx close-in weapon systems, and 4 M2 machine guns. But the real advantage comes from the sensors and processing systems that include a multifunctional radar, 2 S-band active control scanning arrays, and plenty more that remains classified. So far, 2 Gerald R. Ford class carriers have been completed, with only 1 in active service, but the plan is to build a total of 10 by 2050. As each one comes into service, it's replacing an older design that's being retired as part of a program to completely modernize the fleet. Number 2. Chimera Virus. With the recent pandemic that spread across the world, we're now all too aware of how interconnected the planet is and how quickly something can reach every country. And that's just what happened with the variant of a relatively mild virus. Things would be considerably worse if it were a more potent one, and one that had been developed for war. And while the design of such bioweapons have been banned by international law, a number are already known to have been developed. Chimera viruses are arguably the most powerful because they're created by combining the genetic profile of 2 or more different viruses, and if one were ever to be released, the destruction would be on a scale it's never before been seen. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Soviet Union had a dedicated Chimera research program that at 2 different sites created a virus that was a combination of Ebola and smallpox, and also one that was a combination of smallpox and the Venezuelan equine encephalitis virus. And needless to say, each of the original viruses alone are some of the deadliest who have emerged from nature, and the weaponized forms could, in theory, cause more deaths than the most powerful of nuclear weapons. Quite what happened to the Chimera project is not known for certain, with reports from as recently as 1999 suggesting it was still in operation. If this is true, then it's possible that the deadliest superweapon on the planet is microscopic in size, and very few people in the world even have any knowledge of its existence. Number 1. B41 Nuclear Bomb. Developed in the mid-1950s following a request from the Air Force for a higher power weapon, the B41 nuclear bomb was the most powerful one to ever be created by the United States, with an estimated maximum yield of 25 megatons of TNT. Using a 3-stage design, the B41 had a deuterium-tritium boosted primary with a lithium-6 deuteride-enriched fuel in the secondary fusion stage, before an even more powerful 3rd fusion stage. With a weight of over 10,000 pounds, it also holds the record of having the highest yield-to-weight ratio of any weapon that's ever been made. With a cylindrical shape, the B41 was 12 feet long and had a diameter of 4 feet. It was intended to be carried by either a B-52 Stratofortress or a B-47 Stratojet. It could be delivered by freefall or parachute, and was designed to detonate on the ground. In total, around 500 of these devices were made in the early 1960s, before being decommissioned in the mid-1970s, but it's believed that only 2 were actually detonated in testing. These took place as a part of Operation Red Wing at the Bikini Atoll in 1956, and only reached a yield of 5 megatons, meaning the claimed top yield is only theoretical and was thankfully never proved. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.